You've probably heard of using essential oils on the outside of people or even animals, but the real magic happens when you can get it into the lower GI tract.
Because of the oxidative stress reduction and the blood flow increased, because you get the free radicals out of the blood. Once you get on the summer range, if guys are in areas that have problems with pink eye or a foul foot or foot rot, they don't have any problems with that because they're just getting more circulation in those extremities, and then plus their immune system's ramped up. So I could go on, and it sounds like a silver bullet or snake oil is too good to be true. But the truth is, you get the gut healthy, everything else works better. You get the gut happy and healthy, and the rest of the animal works better. And that's our motto, really. I mean, we're gut health, and we get inflammation's the root cause of most problems. 90% of your immune cells are in the lower GI. We get, or James would say, 70 to 90. I would always get on the high end of that, but you get that all flushed out, all the inflammation out of there, so that all that stuff's working properly and things just don't go wrong. And the good thing about it is there's not any other supplement out there on the market that you can feed as cheap as this, and it does as much for you. I mean, even if you took the ones that don't do anything for you, they still cost more than what we do.
What are some of the other benefits of accomplishing that task?
What we quickly learned over the last, Ken, 3 years, 3.5 years, that we had to add reproduction as a component there. What we started seeing was there were more oocytes being produced. Breedback was faster, stronger heats, higher conception rates, right? So more grade A eggs being produced. So we actually had to go back in and add in reproduction. Now, everybody wants to know like mode of action, like how that's happening, right? So we pride ourselves on R&D. We pride ourselves on research. So what we've discovered up to this point is the polyphenols in the oregano oil actually bind to estrogen receptors and makes that animal produce more estrogen, i.e. estradiol, which is why we have an impact on reproduction.
All that and more on this episode 522 of the Working Cows podcast, brought to you by Advanced Ag Products.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows podcast. Very excited to be joined today by Ken Stewart and Dr. James Caldwell. Ken has, of course, been on the podcast before. We talked to him and his wife, Jenny, about Obrock cattle and their excitement about that and their opportunity that they have to share those genetics, which they're pretty excited about. But we're also today joined by Dr. James Caldwell, and they are both with a company called Advanced Ag Products, and they're doing some exciting things with some proprietary technology that encapsulates essential oils and can get them into the lower GI tract. And we're going to talk to them today about the benefits of doing that, how they went about making that happen at Advanced Ag Products, and some of the things that they've seen as a result. So look forward to sharing this conversation with you right now. James, Ken, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Clay.
Yeah, really excited to kind of learn a little bit more about what you guys are up to there at Advanced Ag Products. And guess maybe just start, James. We talked to Ken a little bit before. We know him a little bit, but just kind of start with you and your journey as it relates to the company and some of the products that you guys have developed.
Sure. So obviously James Caldwell, originally from Southern Ohio, grew up on a tobacco and cattle farm there. Did my undergrad degree at Morehead State in Kentucky. From there, I did my master's and PhD at the University of Arkansas. When I finished my PhD in ruminant nutrition, college professor in Missouri for a while. I actually dealing with small ruminants and cattle. And then from there, I left and I worked for Land O'Lakes Purina for a number of years. At Land O'Lakes is where I got interested in photogenics, essential oils, learning, trying to figure out from a research standpoint, like what can those type of products do and how can they benefit the ag industry, animal industry as a whole. Left Purina, and worked for a company in Austria for a number of years. Went to an actual poultry show as a ruminant guy. That's what you do. You go to poultry shows, and that's where I met the owner of this company. Kevin Van Beek is his name. That would have been right before COVID. So that would have been in February of 20. And then by October of 20, I was actually working for Kevin. When I got started I owned a farm in Kentucky. So I worked remotely. I was the VP over research and tech service. And then about 3 years ago, this July, I got promoted to president of the company. So I sold my farm and moved to South Dakota, which is where we're based. We're based in Canton, South Dakota today. Advanced Ag Products is a company that was started, like I said, by Kevin Van Beek in 2006. And then in 2008 is when kind of perfected the coating technology that we'll talk about and how to protect those oils to get to the small intestine. When I started, there was about 8 employees. Today, we're probably around that 40 mark. We stretch from East Coast to West Coast. We actually have a branch in Canada, and then getting ready to do some stuff in Mexico as well. So we're rapidly growing. I have married, actually, believe it or not. My wife is our marketing director, and I have 3 kids. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
you used a word earlier, and I didn't quite catch it. Something about agentics connected to essential oils. What was the
Phytogenics. Yeah. So phytogenics would be just another term to say.
phytogenics?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Just like an all natural
Yep.
feed additive type approach. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. So can you break that down a little bit? Phytogenics. I know we hear a lot about phytonutrients and those kinds of things. And
Those
just kind of
terms
break
are
that down.
no, you're good. So those terms are interchangeable. So if it's a phytogenic or phytonutrients, it just means that it's potentially coming from an all natural plant part, plant extracts, oils, but all natural from that aspect.
And they're beneficial. These phytogenic phytonutrients, all those, they're beneficial in human health. We hear a lot about them in connection there. I've talked to Stefan Van Vliet about some of the work that he's doing.
Sure.
And getting his head wrapped around the actual way that beef is performing in the human body and the differences in phytonutrient compounds for certain types of beef and the way it's raised. But it's also beneficial for cattle, obviously, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So it's beneficial not only for cattle, but for all species, right? So here at Advanced Ag Products, we feed everything from earthworms to large ruminants, right? We don't discriminate. Now, how they function, um, our BioReg product, if you will, from that standpoint, we use pure oregano and pure cinnamon bark oil. Our coating technology, which it allows us to get to that small intestine, is our bread and butter, if you will, right? But in terms of phytogenics or phytonutrients or whatever, I mean, they all have a beneficial impact on animals' performance, whatever that may be. It's just going to depend on which ones people like. Um, I mean, obviously, placement of those types of, say, essential oils, I mean, those all change the microbiome. It'll change reproduction. It changes performance. It changes intake. I mean, so all of them have a beneficial impact. Ours just does a little better.
Sure. And you said cinnamon bark oil, is that right?
Yeah. So BioReg, obviously stands for bypass oregano. We use pure oregano oil and pure cinnamon bark oil. So we don't use any cassia, any cinnamon. So we don't use any synthetics. All of ours is pure oils.
And tell me about why. What the original founder, what drew him to that specific recipe? Has that recipe changed over time, or what drew him to that originally?
Yeah. So fair question. So when Kevin started, I mean, he actually was a distributor for our specific type of oregano. Since ours is single source, from the oregano aspect of it, most people assume that it's It's carbachol and thymol, which would be major active components in oregano that does the heavy lifting in terms of the performance responses, et cetera. We know in our oil we have over 100 other minor components that play just as important role as those two major components. So that's on the oregano side. The cinnamon side, I mean, obviously that'll help drive intakes. I mean, it has other benefits as well. But once you got the formula down, it has not varied since 2008. So every bag of bioregg that's produced, every tub that we have, everything that bioregg is in, that formula has been locked in since then. We don't skimp on, even with the price of things today, or even during COVID or whatever. We still spend the money to get our single source type supplies. We do not vary from our original formula at all.
And what was the scratch that he was trying to itch, or the itch he was trying to scratch, I guess is a better way
Yeah,
to say
yeah,
that.
yep, 100%. So obviously, like we just discussed, there was at the time a ton of oregano companies. He knew that there was going to be benefits in this natural space or photogenic space, citrural space, whatever. What he was trying to the itch he was trying to scratch, if you will, was to make sure that it got to the lower GI tract where that could be even more beneficial than being utilized in the rumen, right? He's not saying that products like that when they're used in the rumen is not bad. It's just ours function different and to a higher velocity than those other type of products.
And what is it accomplishing once it gets there? What?
Sure. Um, with the way that bioregg is designed, right? So it's pure oregano oil, it's pure cinnamon bark oil. It has some carbohydrate source, some soluble fibers, some vitamin C, that type of stuff. Once it gets to that small intestine and that coating starts breaking down, you actually change the villi height with grip depth. The villi being those finger-like projections that does all the nutrient absorptions, right? We can reduce TNF alpha, so you reduce gut inflammation. We can actually impact cellular stress, so oxidative stress, not only from protein carbonyl, but MDA, so the protein side and the fat side. But collectively, when you put all that together, you actually get better gross energy utilization, better protein utilization. Um, when we originally started, or when he started, I should say, we always looked at it like 5 pillars in terms of what we were good at, right? Performance, intake, gut health, stress reduction, and immune function. What we quickly learned over the last, Ken, 3 years,
Yeah.
3.5 years, that we had to add reproduction as a component there. What we started seeing was there were more oocytes being produced. Breed back was faster, stronger heats, higher conception rates, right? So more grade A eggs being produced. So we actually had to go back in and add in um, reproduction. Now everybody wants to know like mode of action, like how that's happening, right? So we pride ourselves on R&D. We pride ourselves on research. So what we've discovered up to this point is the polyphenols in the oregano oil actually bind to estrogen receptors and makes that animal produce more estrogen, i.e. estradiol, which is why we have an impact on reproduction.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it even works on males too, though, right, James? It's not
What is
just
it?
even on the males too. I mean,
Yeah.
bulls.
The males is going to be more from sperm motility, that aspect. More bulls passing breeding settlements exam. A little different pathway on how that happens, but we do impact males as well.
Yeah. And Ken, that's what I was kind of going to ask too, is, from your perspective, cattleman's perspective, what are you seeing? I mean, talking about, increased nutrient absorption, doing better on poor quality forage, I would imagine is kind of what that comes down
That's
to from a
right.
brass tacks perspective.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. And so, what you really see when you go onto our product from a producer standpoint is, they're going to be more content. Like if you're feeding in the wintertime, a lot of guys have to feed hay. We try not to feed much hay, but even if you're grazing stalks or whatever, cows are going to be laying down, chewing their cud. If you're having to feed hay and you're pulling into the hay yard, when you pull it in, or into the pasture with your load of hay that you're going to feed or whatever, the cows don't even get up and chase you like they used to. I mean, they're just content. They're laying around chewing their cud. They're in just as good a body condition score. Most guys are telling me that feed a lot of hay that they can back off on how much hay hay they feed because they're just not eating it. So they feed less hay, and the big things that I'll see is body condition score, contentment. You're going to see cows in heat like mad after calving. Some guys, I have one testimony where the guy started calving, I think the first week in February, and he's had his couple herd bulls running with some cows just because he didn't have enough pens for them all. And he said, well, I need to get them bulls out of there before long. He pulled the bulls like 16 days later, and he had like 3 calves the next year that were bred in that first 16 days after they were calved. So it was amazing to him that they would come back in heat and get back into production that quickly, even though he didn't want calves in that part of the year. But anyway, it worked out good, and it was just a testimony to our product and how it works from a reproductive standpoint. You lower the cortisol levels in the animal too, and oxidative stress, so they don't get worked up as much. And different species we even hear about, like in loadout and pig barns and stuff that are on it. I mean, they don't fight, and they don't fight going up the chute to get loaded in the truck. They just flow a lot better. It's amazing all the different things that we can impact. James didn't touch on it, but we improve colostrum quality. So when them babies do hit the ground, we even have a study right now and a previous study that says, like on first calf heifers, they calve faster, and that has a lot to do with the cortisol, and they don't get worked up. They don't get all weirded out because they don't know what's going on the first time they ever had a baby. So they just lay down and have the calf, and the calf gets up and nurses, and the colostrum's higher quality. You don't have sick calves. If the calves get started onto the tubs, once you get going, we usually use the 125-pound tubs that are shorter, especially when the calves are young, so that the calves always have access to that product. When they're out on the feeding range or wherever you have them. When a lot of guys, when they go out with a TMR or they go out and feed cows, the cows will go to the hay, and then the calves will go to the tubs. And if those calves are on those, they're not gonna. This product is 100% effective against coccidiosis, Salmonella, E. coli, so they're not gonna have scours near as much. Because of the oxidative stress reduction and the blood flow increased, because you get the free radicals out of the blood. Once you get on the summer range, if guys are in areas that have problems with pink eye or a foul foot or foot rot, they don't have any problems with that because they're just getting more circulation in those extremities, and then plus their immune system's ramped up. So I could go on, and it sounds like a silver bullet or snake oil is too good to be true. But the truth is, you get the gut healthy, everything else works better. You get the gut happy and healthy, and the rest of the animal works better. And that's our motto, really. I mean, we're gut health, and we get inflammation is the root cause of most problems. 90% of your immune cells are in the lower GI. We get, or James would say 70 to 90. I would always get on the high end of that, but you get that all flushed out, all the inflammation out of there, so that all that stuff's working properly and things just don't go wrong. And the good thing about it is there's not any other supplement out there on the market that you can feed as cheap as this, and it does as much for you. I mean, even if you took the ones that don't do anything for you, they still cost more than what we do.
And you were talking about that, James. I think one of the 5 pillars was intake. Is that what you're talking about? The fact that they're going to kind of stick to that whatever ounces per head per day intake? Is that what you're referring to there?
Yeah. So it depends on the product, right? Like our tubs, for example. I mean, they're a cooked low moisture tub. Usually around that quarter of a pound. The label will say 0.25 to 0.33, so we'll maintain that. Part of it, when I say intake, is around feed efficiency, depending on what we're doing, right? We've done some work comparing against some ionophores, where we're able to improve intake there, but we're also able to pick up the feed efficiency response and help with reduction of treats by 21%, right?
So I should elaborate on that a little bit. So what James says about a lot of folks feel like they need to, and it's been a great product for 30 years, probably Rumensin or some other, not anything by name necessarily, but an ionophore. And it works really good for a lot of things in a feeding scenario, like in a feedlot. Well, our product, you can run through a micro machine, and you can get a lot of the same protection as if you were feeding the ionophore, but on the same, you're not going to suppress appetite. Ionophore, one of the reasons why it helps with bloat and stuff, because it suppresses the appetite. So ours what we are seeing is we're not getting any problems from that regard in the bloats or whatnot. The health is every bit as good, and we got studies to prove the health has been better. But on the same respect, they're eating more and but efficiently, because they're going to be 30 days less on an average on feed, days on feed, with a heavier hot carcass weight, and better because the ionophore also has adverse effects on the carcass quality. We're going to have better grades and better carcass quality. So it's been a win-win for everybody. And it used to be that we would just kind of go into an all-natural feedlot that couldn't use anything like that. But now a lot of these conventional guys, they're seeing the benefit, and they're just going, we got feedlots one right after another coming on, and they're just feeding it in their conventional fed cattle in place of an ionophore. And some guys feed them in conjunction, and it doesn't hurt anything to feed them in conjunction, except for it costs a little more. But the ROI on our product's enough that they can justify it. Would you agree with all that, James?
I would agree. One of the bigger benefits, I mean, obviously, if they wanted to feed the ionophore and with us, I mean, they can do that, and which is kind of weird. But one of the bigger benefits that they see is just a reduction in methane, right? CH4 reduction. Typically, like Ken said, what typically happens is we'll ease them into that because obviously people are they're used to the certain product, and then ours is relatively newer. But over the course of about 30 days, they'll end up pulling the ionophore, and then we'll be the only protection that they have. So we will get improved carcass quality, feed efficiency. I mean, health, all that stuff happens whenever they start using BioReg.
Yeah, and talk to me about kind of the different options as far as delivery is concerned. You know, you talked about tubs. What else is out there as far as, or from you guys, what else is available?
Yeah, so you can actually, so BioReg is a granular product, right? So Ken mentioned earlier about micro machines. You can buy it by a 50-pound bag and put it in a TMR. You can put it through your micro machine. We have loose mineral. We obviously have tubs. We have it in pelleted products. We have it where you can put it in water if that's the way you choose, right? We change some of the carriers and add dextrose as a carrier, and then it can go through watering systems, feed a lot of swine and poultry that way. And more cattle, more on the receiving side. That's becoming more and more popular. But there isn't a way to that if there is a need that you have a need to want to feed it and we don't have one, our duty part is that we'll build it for you, right? So we can build custom minerals, we can build custom products to get BioReg and to fit in any operation. But Ken, I don't think that we have I think we pretty much have every way covered that I can imagine, unless I'm missing something, right? Unless Ken decides, hey, I need this tomorrow, and then that's when he calls me.
Yeah, loose mineral works. A lot of guys that don't want to feed tubs, and we could go into this, but we're not a tub company. But I'm a tub guy. It works good for me, and I've proven to myself that tub's a good way to feed your mineral. And you don't have to worry about the waste. You don't have to worry about the wind or the rain or anything like that. I mean, I wish we were getting rain, but regardless, I mean, the tub is always solid. I mean, it works good. The consumption is good all year round. If you're in an area where maybe they're not going to eat minerals certain times of year, it's actually an enticer, but they still don't overconsume. So the tub works good. And in our tub line, we have a superior tub line. Even if we took the BioReg out, our tubs would be running right there with the best tubs on the market. So that, besides just the BioReg and some of our other newer products that I'm sure we'll go into that are also essential oil products. But besides just the BioReg, the tubs are really good anyway, you know, from a mineral standpoint. And then we do have different options where you can have a stress tub, and we have Breathe Right. Now we have our Garlic Plus, but we can put the Garlic Plus into loose mineral too. But I don't think there's any way, if a guy's got a peculiar way that he feeds cattle or whatever, we can sure help him. I mean, and the thing of it is, if you get down just to the brass tacks of how much it costs for the active ingredient, the magic that we have, the BioReg that's different than anything else on the face of the earth in terms of cattle supplementation, that is only going to cost you like 8 cents per head per day. So it's affordable no matter how you want to do it. If you want to make it into a mineral, if someone has a mineral they like, they can mix it at the box. If they want to share the tag, we can make one for them that's just like what they had with ours in it. So I mean, there's so many options.
Clay, I'd like to add to that just a little bit. So obviously we have products today, but you know, earlier when we talked about the history of AAP, So we originally started out just being a feed additive company, right? We wanted to sell our feed additive to other companies. What we ended up doing was being a quasi feed company today, to where now I think we're more of an innovation type company, right? Innovation in terms of Garlic Plus, innovation in terms of Breathe Right. I mean, those type of innovation type products that we put into our whole line of products. But it's actually helped us gain even more market share and help producers um, realize the power of just getting those essential oils down to that lower GI tract, no matter if it's oregano, cinnamon, garlic, lemongrass, whatever it is, how well we can benefit that animal.
So we talk about the tubs or loose mineral. I don't know if this is the right way to ask this question, but what does it take the place of? Like, what would you say if you're doing this currently, you can stop doing that and start using BioReg Plus? What, Ken, maybe you want to answer that question?
So from my perspective, we don't have any competition. There's nobody doing what we do, and there's anybody that even has a EO or essential oil product. All they have is free oil in the rumen, which, like James said, isn't a bad thing, but a lot of it gets dissipated. So maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze if you have free oil in the rumen. And if you're buying stuff like we are, it's very expensive because we get single sourced. We tie up. I mean, nobody can even get the same oils we have, but if they find something comparable, it's going to be very expensive. And then if you just feed it to them, spray it on feed or whatever, or you don't have the proper coating, or they try to encapsulate it, it gets broke up and then it gets used up in the rumen. It never gets to the GI tract where it can make all the difference. So in terms of replacing anything, it's not really, I don't think it's a replacement necessarily. However, you can change your feed ration. You don't have to feed as hot of a ration because they're going to get more out of everything you feed them. So you can definitely tweak your feed ration. If you were, I don't know, James, what do you think? Ionophores, obviously we can take those away, and I'm not against ionophores. I think they've been a great tool for many years. I'm just saying there may not be necessary if you're feeding our product, depending on your application.
That's right. And then obviously you could pull yeast, you could pull enzymes. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can be removed from a particular ration, and then put BioReg in. And that's going to be more from a TMR, if you will, feedlot aspect. Like if you're grazing cows, I mean, the BioReg stuff just allows you to have better nutrient absorption of the minerals that's going in there. That maybe you don't need as expensive as a mineral. We can do it a little cheaper, if you will, or more cost effective. Let's not say cheaper, but cost effective. Agree, Ken?
Yeah, when I first came to the company, and maybe we don't even want to go here, James, but James isn't even a real big fan of chelated minerals, and I'm a huge fan of chelated minerals, and he's proven me wrong in a lot of different scenarios. I still feed chelated minerals, but he made a mineral that a lot of guys were using, and they were getting awesome results from reproduction and feed efficiency and all that. And it had the BioReg in there, and he made the mineral at a low cost that didn't have all the bells and whistles, and he just said that it wasn't necessary, especially with the BioReg. And I thought, man, he's crazy. Then I'd see testimonies and I'd hear preg check results and stuff like that, and they were amazing. And the thing of it is there are some advantages to chelated and protected minerals to get to the lower GI, and I'm not a fan of having a bunch of oxides in my rumen and whatnot, but I will tell you that they're getting just as the same results as I am. So, I mean, I may be way out in left field on that and probably spending more money than I need to. So if there's a guy that has that same thought process or the same thinking as James, we can add the BioReg and they can get just as good results as I do with a 100% fully chelated mineral pack with a lot cheaper mineral pack. So I think that would be one way to explain that, huh, James?
Yeah. And that's a philosophical argument between Ken and I about every day, is usually how that works out. Well, I mean, in terms of products, we do build them with oxides and sulfates, and when we do build products now where they get a chelated mineral, their full dose of chelated mineral. We just came out this year, well, about a month and a half ago, with what we call our Supreme tub. So it doesn't have any oxides or sulfates in it. It actually it's chelated and then backfilled with hydroxy minerals. Has a little more bioreg in it. Actually has a chelated magnesium source, if you will. It has added thiamine and a selenium yeast to it. And the beauty part about that, and obviously we're very producer driven. I have cows today. Ken has cows. Clay, I'm sure you have cows, right? And we understand the owner of the company has cows. So we're ultimately cattlemen and producers first, and then obviously the business is second, right? We want to see we need products that will drive performance and intake and benefits in the animal, but doesn't break the bank, right? And that's where we fit. Um, with that Supreme tub, we got all that stuff done for $10 per tub more than like our all around tub, right? Which was one of the very first mineral tubs that we came out with. Um, Historically, that probably would have cost, a probably $200 a tub more. But we built it in such a way that it doesn't break the bank, right? It still gets you down to cost per head per day that's affordable. Plus, when you take that, plus all the other benefits that you get with the bioreg, I mean, how do you not feed it, right? Ken, do
Yeah.
you have anything to add?
No, that's what I'm feeding now. I mean, ever since it came out, I've been feeding the Supreme, but I often question whether I needed to because I got great results with the all around. So, I mean, I'm uh, just trying to feel it all out right now.
I think Clay Ken is just ultimately trying to prove me wrong every day that he has to have those, and we'll keep that philosophical discussion going because Ken actually flies into the home office actually tomorrow, so I'm pretty sure by Thursday we'll have that same discussion. So it's going to work out really well.
Very good. So it kind of sounds like, or it really sounds like, one of the main things that sets this product apart is the coating that you mentioned to get that oregano oil into the lower GI tract. First of all, do I understand it correctly?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So the coating we coined it CF20 Protected, which stands for Conglomeration Formula 20, and it basically the 20 part means it took 20 years to perfect it to get it to where it needs to go. So you think of the coating like a chocolate chip cookie, right? So don't think of it like so you think of it like a chocolate chip cookie, where in the fact that the cookie part would be the coating and the oil droplets would be the oils, right? The chips would be the oils. That's the part that gets through past the rumen, past the stomach, right? Into that small intestine before it's broken apart. Most of the time, the way that these essential oils are coated, you think of it like a peanut M&M, right? Where the shell would be a fat or an acid coating, and then the oil would be the peanut, if you will. Historically, those will get utilized in the rumen, and again, it's not a bad thing. That's just not where we wanna play and where we see most of the benefits. Um, but yes, the coating is our quote unquote bread and butter, right? That is what sets us apart. Besides single source and high quality ingredients, that coating is what makes all the difference to where we can, change performance, change reproduction, change, intake, whatever that performance marker is, that's the difference for us.
And does it really come down to the fact that you're getting that oil all the way into the lower GI tract, and that
Yeah.
is increasing villi length and
Yeah.
helping with nutrient absorption?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, and then and Ken mentioned it earlier. So oregano has, a lot of cool properties, right? So anti-parasitic, antibacterial, antimicrobial, that type of stuff, where we do impact Salmonella, E. coli, and Coccidia, right? That's where that stuff lives. So when that oil is released, I mean, it actually helps even reduce those from that aspect as well. Um,
Hmm.
it's think of it like a prescribed dose of essential oils to the small intestine, right? That's the ultimate goal for
yeah.
us.
And we haven't even talked about it, but our Garlic Plus, that has the same coating technology, and we use single sourced garlic that's real high powerful, got all the miners in it, so it'll actually repel flies. Because most garlics that are traded on the open market, they don't even have the components in them to do what it needs to. But then, because it can get to the lower GI tract, that's where it can actually get to the bloodstream to get to the glandular system. And then, besides garlic, we also have lemongrass extract and vanilla in there, which also helps with the exterior parasites. So we've had had some major good testimonies this winter on lice, and then the guys that are using it in the fly season. It's been very effective for an all natural fly. It doesn't kill anything. You'll still have flies, but they just won't bother your cattle. You'll have flies flying around, and the cattle will be grazing with their head down. They won't be swishing their tail, and it's amazing product. That's been a huge seller for us too.
So just to add to that, right? So when we decided that we wanted to play in that space, right? So we did quite a bit of work in terms of looking what makes garlic functional, what helps repel the most flies. What we realized that you needed high disulfide bonds, dyes and tris. So we went out and found an oil that would have the maximum level of those, coated those with our CF20 coating technology. And historically, I've done quite a bit of work with lemongrass. Flies would be garlic, lemongrass would be ticks, mosquitoes, and lice. And then putting those two together, coating the lemongrass, putting those two together as one product in terms of the amount of biting insects that um, kind of went away, if you will, it is crazy. The other advantage that we started noticing was not only were they not biting the animals, then obviously over time, if they don't have a blood meal, then you have less eggs. But even in the manure itself, like flies do not want to land on the manure. Actually, and so then if that's the case, then obviously you won't get eggs being laid. Now we're not an IGR, right? So we're nothing like that. That he has a feed through and it gets into the manure and it kills the larvae. That is not how we function. But we're able to reduce populations by just allowing them. They don't want to eat. They don't want to bite the animal.
Yeah. Yep. And that was kind of my next question. You mentioned earlier other products. We've talked about the garlic plus. One of my elders sells for another company that shall remain nameless, but he says I'm pretty sure that all the garlic does added in is give my flies bad breath. So I mean that's that's different than what you're accomplishing. So
100%. Um, it took some while. It took a while to find the specific type of garlic that we needed, right? I mean, you can't just go buy a powder. You can't just go and say, okay, well, this has garlic in it, and you're not going to get the same efficacy as what our Garlic Plus product has. Yeah,
yeah. Yep. And so I think you mentioned earlier a breeding tub as well, or a product that's good for that time of year. Can you talk to me about that, Ken, and how it's used and maybe how people are deploying it?
Yes, sir. We use the Supreme tub now. This will be the first year during breeding. Before that, I've always used the all around. But it's not a specific breeding tub. It's just a mineral tub. And most of the time, my personal opinion is people don't need added protein. So it's got a little protein in it with the ingredients that it's made with, but it doesn't have any added protein. And it's a superior mineral pack. And then it's got the biorig in there that helps get it. And I use the garlic as well. I use the garlic year round. But so it's not a specific breeding tub. Now we do have a sheep tub that we built that was specific for breeding. We add some flax in there and stuff like that, omega-3s, which helps to flush the sheep. But we thought about doing something like that with cattle, but it's not been necessary because so far there's nothing on the market that can help. I mean, we work with large embryo facilities that make embryos, and the data that they've given us back is, they're gonna breed. There's so many more ovocytes or embryos and grade A number 1 embryos that come out of those cows that are on our product just after a month's time or 3 weeks time, that we know that for us to try to add omega-3s or something like that in there, it's probably not necessary because we're accomplishing everything we need to do because they've already tried all those products that have the added flax and stuff like that. So, but the one you might have been thinking of was Breathe Right. That's the one that's a separate product.
Yep. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay, the Breathe Right, now that's a little different. Breathe Right's another granular product that's similar to, well, not similar to at all, but it's a replacement for guys that like do a pulse with aromycin or something like that. So what it does is, like, when you have a stressed calf and during shipping time or receiving time or weaning time, you can run that originally how it started. You could run that granular product as a top dress to help. It's kind of like Mucinex for cattle. So it's an anti-intusive. So would get all the mucus out of their airways, and then they wouldn't get loaded up, and they wouldn't just feel bad, and then they just do better. It keeps them breathing free. So that's why we call it Breathe Right. Is a pretty good name for it. But then since then, we've went to where we can put that into our Start Right pellet, so that guys can use that in their Start Right pellet, which is another program we haven't talked about. And then we also have it in a tub. And when we put it in a tub that first year, and then ever since, during weaning time, it's our best seller. So the Breathe Right tub, guys love it. The calves lick on that tub. They get that oil package of the Breathe Right into them, and they just don't have. I mean, the one thing you will notice, and so you might as well disclose it so some people freak out. When they first start on Breathe Right, there'll be a lot of snot. They'll have a lot of, like, they'll be cleaning out their airways. So it looks like they're sick, but they're just cleaning out their airways. And then after they're on it, usually we do one set of those Breathe Right tubs and then just go to a regular stress tub in the weaning pens. And once they get that first tub 8, they're cleaned out, and usually they never look back. But if they ever did have a problem, drop another Breathe Right tub in, or top dress whatever you're feeding them, and you can just clean them right back out again. And
Yeah.
James, you could talk a little more about the science and the oils in that if you'd like.
No, I mean, you did a great job of explaining what we, from our data, what we noticed. Like, just feeding straight bioreg, you see a reduction of about 21% in terms of treats. When you add the Breathe Right bioreg combination, it's usually around 50-60% reduction in treats. And that's with high-risk stockers, that's with weaning, that's with whatever. The other thing that we haven't touched on is when you're feeding our product, particularly bioreg, if you will, once you get, like Ken mentioned earlier, everything, once you get that system happy and healthy, everything else follows suit. If you did have to treat an animal, we actually show a better response to a lower grade antibiotic than you wouldn't have to buy a high powered antibiotic. But on Breathe Right, Ken did a great job. So think of it like an all natural aromycin or a souped up Mucinex for animals, right? The whole job of that is to get all the fluid and stuff out of the lungs and push it out, right? So I mean, I can still remember calls when we first came out with that product. They're like, "Holy hell, it's not working. These calves are sick." And I'm like, "Well, guys, that stuff's got to come through the nose because it can't come through the ears, right?" And then typically once we talk them through it a little bit, um, then they're okay, and then they're all to eating. They notice that intakes are picking up on these weaned calves or bot cow or whatever, and they don't have to treat as much, and they're healthier. And I mean, that is actually probably our number 2 top selling tub that we have is our Breathe Right stress tub.
Yeah. So that was just me hearing incorrectly. I heard breed right. You said breathe right. So
Breathe, yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's probably my South Dakotan accent. That would be my guess.
So are there others with Garlic Plus, Breathe Right? The
Breathe,
stress
yep.
tub, are those together? Are Breathe Right and the stress tub together? Are they separate, or they can be either way?
So the beauty part about the way we do it, like if you wanted to buy, you could buy a Breathe Right stress tub, Garlic Plus tub. I mean, all 3 of those are combined. Any tub that we have today that you can get Garlic Plus in, obviously Breathe Right is specifically for the Breathe Right stress tub, but that all the combinations we can make happen.
Or you can, if you feed cake to your weaned calves or a pellet, you can put the Breathe Right in a pellet, with the bioreg, or you can do it just granular on a top dress. Whatever you're working with, we can. All these products are pretty nimble.
So in the Breathe Right lineup, we have it in a tub. We have a granular, that's 1/10 per head per day. We have a concentrated version if you want to feed liquid protein or wanted to run through a micro machine. We have that version, and then we have a liquid version as well.
Okay. Are there any others that we missed? Any other products that you wanted to mention here that we missed?
I mean, we like I said, we do everything from cap tubes. I mean, we do have those. We do lick tubs, loose mineral pelleted products. Just created 4 new equine feeds. If there's ever an interest there, we're expanding our feed portfolio in terms of cattle feeds and all that stuff. Ken, what am I missing?
Well, I want to touch on the Start Right program. So Start Right's a 1/4 pound per day pellet that we developed, in the program's a 28-day program. And so when you wean the calves, a lot of guys will start them on long stem hay in the bunk. This is just you top dress that hay with this pellet, and it's like I don't know if it's the best analogy, but somebody brought it up and it sticks in my head. It's like crack for calves. So they sprinkle it on there. The calves come to the bunk. They eat that pellet. They eat some hay, and it gets the biorig dose in them at that quarter-pound rate. And they're going to eat it. I don't ever heard of anybody that said they didn't eat start right pellets. And the calves, like I had one producer in Canada. He had 800 cows. He put half of his calves on his regular protocol and half of them on the start right. And the regular protocol had ionophores and stuff in it. And all he did was hay and start right. And he put our tubs in the pen. And about 12 days into it, he was going to do it for like 60 days. About 12 days into it, he said, "Can I quit this?" And we're like, oh, what's happening? He said, "Well, those calves that I got on the start right, they're bouncing on the bunk, ready to eat." He said, "The other ones I'd have to skip feedings because they won't eat what I'm trying to feed them, and I can't get them. I'm doctoring over there. I'm not doctoring anything on the start right." He said, "I'm never doing anything. If I can quit this trial, I'm just going to go to start right, and I'm never doing it again without start right." He said, and it wasn't abnormal the way the calves were responding on the normal protocol. He said that's just the way he thought it was at weaning. But he said with start right is amazing. They just come and eat, and you don't have to turn it into a feedlot scenario or anything. You can just start your calves on hay that way. And then, start after 28 days. We'd like them to be on 28 days. It gets all that into the system and whatnot. And then introduce the tubs at some point during that time, and then just leave them on tubs and turn them on range or feed them hay, long stem hay, or whatever you want to do. But it's a really nice product, and it's been very successful.
And that's mostly, the battle with new calves, in a sell-by scenario, in a weaning scenario where you're bringing in new calves all the time. If you can get them eating and drinking, you're a long ways down the road towards not having a bunch of sick calves, if I understand it right.
Yeah, now you're talking James's language. That's what he does. He loves that. He loves to buy cheap and get them rebounded on our products and sell them as fast as he can. He got some stories about that he could probably share too. And you tell him your protocol on that, what you did with because you make sure they had it in the water and the start right pellet right, and then the tub, and then.
Yeah, so typically what we would do, like obviously, Eastern cattle, and they could be vaccinated, they could not be vaccinated. I mean, they could be weaned. They're not. I mean, it is what you get. So we would, like Ken say, we buy them at a discounted price. We would drop them in a holding pen with our PS concentrate or liquid bioreg, if you will, in the water tanks at about 70 grams per 128 gallons of drinking water with long stem hay. And we always like to let them set for about 24, 48 hours before even working them. Because like you just said, right, you want to get them drinking, you want to get them to where they, you rest, rehydrate, restore the rumen, particularly when you're trucking them in. And we would work them. Of course, we would deworm them, we'd vaccinate them, we'd go through that typical protocol. And then they would be on start right pellets for 28 days. And then after that, they would be on tubs. And during that time, they always had access to breathe right tubs. So, because you always get those calves that don't want to come to the bunk in 1 or 2, right? Well, I wanted them to make sure that they had plenty of access to the tubs, or to biorig or AAP products. And then from there, they would go to another feed ration, and I would actually just put granular biorig into the feed. And then we were trying to flip them 60 and 90 days later. And it worked really well. Some of the other work that we've done in terms of weaning stress or different types of management, if you will, is, I did some studies. We're looking at, fence line weaning. So all the groups are fence line weaning. I just put in different types of tubs within those where I knew they were going to be walking the fence line. And now I had access to water and tubs and everything. So I would use a cheap co-op tub compared to ours, our breathe right tub. The calves would actually skip that cheap tub because it's urea based, etc., and they would go to our breathe right tubs every time. Every time we did this, so that actually benefited us as well. It kind of told us that we're headed down the right direction. Because in our tubs, if you will, we do not use any urea. It doesn't mean if you're even on our protein tub, we use all natural proteins, so we don't use any urea, nothing like that. That actually helps gain better intakes. Calves like them better, and then for that, you actually get to see the results that we talk about on here.
Very good.
What do you think, Ken? Is that what you're after?
Yeah, that sounds.
So anything else that you guys wanted to touch on today or other things that you guys wanted to mention?
Well, so Clay, like in your part of the world, like what are we missing, right? So how do like customers and or producers in your part of the world, would our products resonate, or is there something that we need to do different? Like, what do you think? You're an outsider here. Ken and I live this stuff every day, right? Obviously, we're going to tell you that we're the best there ever was and ever will be. But what do you see from your standpoint?
Yeah, I think just the opportunity to be flexible, and to have different ways of getting it to the cattle. I think you've got those bases covered pretty well, and I think a lot of people are everybody seems to be looking differently at what they're feeding their cattle, and trying to figure out how to do it in a way that's more natural, more in line with God's design, and I think that's something that it sounds like you guys are barking up that tree as well, and so I think that's a powerful set of products there. It sounds like, and I can't think of anything right off the top of my head that needs added, or common issues that I hear. You guys covered them, today, as far as the breathing, breathe right, and those things, and then the pink eye, hoof rot, all that stuff.
Yep.
Those are the things that people in my neighborhood deal with regularly, and so I think those are pretty well covered. So,
Good.
what about the
That's a good
future?
answer. It's like you're a politician in a way, Clay. You helped answer the question, but didn't. Yeah, no, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Well, what about the future? You guys got your eyes. I mean, you mentioned some new products that you've just come out with, but anything that's kind of on the radar, things that you guys are pursuing in the near future?
So we're always, I mean, like you said, R&D research. I mean, um, that's where we shined. Obviously, and the reason why we have to do things like podcasts, which are great, and after about so many years of being here, we realized that we spent a lot of money in R&D and research, but we did a really shitty job at marketing, right? And so we needed to expand our marketing scope. Um, which is where my wife came in from our marketing director aspect. Social media, we do a really good job there. We just hired a new lady to help us with marketing. Her name was Shay. Um, you'll see more videos. You'll see more of that type of stuff coming here pretty soon. Um, but from a product standpoint, it just depends on the scenario. There's a few things that we're working on the background. Um, I don't know, which is kind of ironic. And I know we're talking about cattle here, but do you, and your listeners, are they big hunters?
I suppose they are. I would imagine they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
So yeah, there you go. So we came up this year. I came up with this. It's a deer attractant. So each one of these spikes, you just drive in the ground, and each one contains zero point 0.4 ounces of deer urine. So instead of spraying it on, you can actually drive that in the ground, and it's not a feed. It's just a pure attractant. Um, and in terms of R&D and product development, I mean, it just depends on what the need is, and if we can answer the question or the calling to solve the problem.
We have a pet food line and treats with
Yeah.
biotechnology in it.
That's right. Ken and I were not busy enough, so we decided to do something in pet food. And so we do have a pet food company. It's a sister company to AAP called ACAP, so Advanced Companion Animal Products, where you can get, we have 3 lines of dog food, our all around, our puppy formula, which will be called Start Right, and then our Sport Plus. And then we also have treats that you can get, and everything contains the bioreg in it.
And what is the advantage there? Again, kind of back to my first question. What itch are we scratching there? Similar kind of things, getting rid of oxidative stress and
Yeah.
making better nutrient
Yeah.
uptake.
So it comes down to, in that standpoint, it would be like coat quality, reproduction, depending on where you're going. Stools are harder and firmer. Um, the dogs absolutely love it. Doing a little bit of work now, looking at it using BioRate, because you reduce the oxidative stress, you make that gut healthier, and it's actually seems like it's impacting separation anxiety. So that's kind of a new avenue to kind of go down from the pet food aspect of it for us. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where we're playing in that avenue.
We also have a human line we're working on, and we have a lot of great testimonials on the trials we did with humans and reproduction and different things. So we don't need to go into all that, but if somebody's having trouble, they can reach out to us. It's amazing what we've done there too.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll just talk about the human line and some of the stuff that you guys have envisioned there as some bonus content. But for now, I'm gonna just say I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Very good stuff there with James and Ken. Really look forward to hearing more from the team at Advanced Ag Products in the near future and seeing what they have in store. Very excited to share with you a conversation that I had with the guys from the soon-to-be-launched Ranch Rolodex podcast. Lord willing, this episode will come out on Monday before their podcast launches July 22nd, the Ranch Rolodex podcast. 3 business-minded guys getting together, talking about the ways that they've been helped, mentored, and the ways that they've been able to mentor other people and in the agricultural business. So really looking forward to sharing that conversation with you, coming your way real soon on another episode of the Working Cows podcast.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.